Welcome to D.B.K. Casefiles. Got me, Doc. And joining me today on this special live podcast, the Wild Man, Wild Bill, 1/3 of the founding, really can't say fathers, but the founding members of this illustrious group that we call D.B.K. Investigations. Welcome back to Wild Man. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm the B. So, I'm glad to be here. Glad to finally be a part of one of our podcasts. So.
Yeah, well, since we're just now getting these babies up and rolling again.
Right.
And if you hear a lot of noise in the background, we are outside.
Trying to enjoy some of this sunshine before the liquid sunshine sets in.
We got cigars, we got some drinks, nothing alcoholic this time around.
Yeah, I don't drink anyway. It's all good.
And we are smoking a Rocky Patel Drew Estate Java Mint cigars. Taste just like Thin Mint Girl Scout cookies.
They do. It's kind of nice, actually. It's not too heavy, not too, I don't smoke cigars all that often, but when I do, some have like a bitter aftertaste, and they're just like really gnarly, and some are like really good. And in this one, because it's like the, kind of tastes like a little bit of a thin mint there.
Yeah.
It's not too imposing, so kind of like it. Yeah.
So, the name of the podcast is not Cigar Review, even though we should do that one of these days.
I think we just did.
I think we did, a small one. The name of the podcast is D.B.K. Casefiles, where we like to talk about cases that we've been on or that happen to interest us. So because of the fact that we've got the big Sasquatch expedition coming up at the end of the month, but you were moving away from us.
I'm sorry. Yes,
it's understandable. It happens. So we're going to...
Or maybe I just didn't really feel like being the bait. You always used to... See, here's the thing, is like, what y'all don't realize about Darren here is that he used to always threaten to, like, leave me out there as bait. And I'm like, well, what happens if, I'm compromised by Sasquatch, And his response to that was that was always that was a risk that he was willing to take in the name of science. And I was like, thanks, bro. Thanks.
I always said that if we made a lot of money selling the Bigfoot tape, Bigfoot Mates 2022, that we'd pay for your therapy.
Sure. But you also said something like it was going to be something insane like 70-30 in your favor. And I'm like, if I'm the one who's being compromised by Bigfoot, I think it should have been the other way around.
Yeah, but you would your mental health is important to us. We would have made sure you were okay. A lot of ice cream not to eat.
Right. Yeah.
So, when we started this little fiasco of ours so many years ago, you were the resident skeptic.
Yep.
And in the time that we've done the cases, we've done the investigations, I think we've moved you a little bit more out of the hardcore skeptic into you've seen things, you've heard things that you cannot explain.
That would be about accurate, because that's the thing. It's like I've been on ghost hunts where we with Aaron. He was running an EVP down at the bottom of the hill in Oregon City at the Oregon City elevator. That would be in Oregon City, Oregon, for those who don't know. It's kind of a historic landmark there. That he was running EVP, and we were all kind of having a casual conversation. He asked if there's any spirits around. We had a couple mediums that were there, and they stated that they felt the presence that there, and the skeptic in me is like, okay, whatever. There's no way I can tangibly verify that, But I can say that Aaron had said something to the effect of, if there's anyone here with us and you want to say something, please just go ahead and speak up into the little box right here. And so he recorded for a few minutes, or we recorded casual conversation for a few minutes, and then he played it back for the whole group, because it was one of those ghost...
the public-led.
The ghost tours there that Rocky Smith runs there in Oregon City. And, as soon as he said, is there anything that, anyone wants to say to us, go ahead and, speak up. And so we know, everyone who was there and part of that group, we know what was said, amongst all of us that were there. And there were extra voices on that audio that were none of us. And it was kind of funny, because Aaron kind of turns to me and he looks at me and he, in front of everybody there, he says, "Bill, what do you make of this?" Or something along those lines. Like, what do you have to say about that? And I'm like, I have no idea what that is. I can't dismiss it, because I hear it. So there was something tangible there, and I did hear it. Whether I, anyone who knows me knows that I don't necessarily believe in ghosts. I am a Bible believer, so I do believe in entities known as spirits and demons, and I think that negative forces do manifest themselves in a way that where they like to screw with mankind. Anything to pull mankind away from God the Father there, that's kind of what they're going to do. And that's what I believe is happening when there's ghost hauntings and the like. I think it's more, I don't discount demonic possessions. I think it's kind of akin to that. But I don't necessarily believe that, those who have died linger around. My own personal belief, biblically speaking, that the Bible doesn't say that's what we do. So take that for what it is. If you believe, great. If you don't believe, that's your prerogative too. And I'm not here to change anyone's mind. I'm just here to lend healthy skepticism to any time that we do an investigation. And I think that's a good thing. I'm always reminded of that Ghost Hunters episode where they went into the cellar and the folks of this restaurant said that they always smelled roses, and they thought that it was a ghost presence that was giving off a rose scent. And one question that they asked is like, was this around the summertime? Spring and summer? Yeah. Do you ever smell it in the wintertime? Well, no. Okay. Well, is that window up there, because we're in a basement here, that window up there, is that always open? Well, yeah, in the spring and summertime. Okay. They go outside, well, there's a rose bush right there. So you could tangibly make a reasonable assumption that the rose smell was from the roses outside and not something of a ghost. So, there's like a righteous debunking there. So right. That's what I try to do, is I try to logically explain something. And I'll be the first to admit, there are some times when, just like that time down at the elevator, I could not logically explain where that voice on that EVP came from. I don't know. And I think you're trying to lead into when we saw that squatch nest.
Yeah. That was on the docket now.
Yeah.
We're kind of covering everything. Ghost, squatch.
Yeah, that has got to be my favorite experience. Mostly because I am a skeptic, and I'm not a huge believer in ghost stories and such. And when we were walking around before we found that area, we were looking for the Pisgah Cemetery, and I don't know if you ever found it yet, but
we'll cover that in.
As we were walking around and up in the woods up there, Aaron said that he heard a voice, clear as you can hear my voice, of a woman hollering at him. I don't remember what it was that but here, I remember he looked over at me. He's like, "Did you hear that?" And I'm like, "Hear what?" He's like, "A woman, like, said something to me, and I don't know what was up with that. But I mean, I did just go water a tree. So, if by any chance there is a, the ghost of the old lady up there, maybe she was squawking and she didn't appreciate, us men, whipping our wangers out and, watering a tree there. So, I don't know."
Well, the Pisgah House itself, I mean, it was a good experience. It was a good time to get up there. I mean, we got some stuff. We didn't get a lot of stuff. There wasn't enough that we can actually kind of go off of.
But, the interesting thing about that was that, and this goes along with, why this was one of my favorite experiences, because we weren't looking for this. We were looking for something completely different. I mean, we found the Pisgah House, or what was left of it.
Yeah.
And
well, the cemetery was just wooden crosses.
Oh, okay.
So when everything burns, it's gone.
Right. So, I mean, here we are, we're looking for the cemetery, and then off the, the Google Maps or whatever it was, whichever app you were using, it says, "Okay, you're here." Well, we're still on the road, and, there's kind of an embankment into some woods there, but that's it. There's nothing there. It's like we're looking around, and, we all kind of go down there, and Darren spots this, looked like someone had made a little lean-to out of a bunch of trees and such, and, I mean, it definitely looked like it was something that someone had used for a shelter.
Now, see, here's the thing. I took all the pictures and video.
Yeah.
And we went to the Squatch Fest before everything went down.
Yeah.
And the one guy, who's like the expert, I don't want to talk bad about him. He's a nice guy. But he kind of didn't really want to look at our stuff. I introduced myself, told him who I was with, and hey, we found this stuff when we were doing this.
Yeah, didn't you tell me he was like very dismissive, I should say, of your what you wanted to show him, and
yeah,
and I remember you telling me you were very cautious about how much you shared for fear that some of these other dare I say hacks out there come steal our evidence, say, "Hey, this is what we found." It's like, no, bro, we found that, we brought it to you, or whatever.
The interesting thing is we went from him to another group that does it. And we show him the pictures of the teepee, and we asked him, "What do you make of this?" And he says, "Well, we don't have any evidence of Bigfoot making teepees."
Sorry, that's my phone.
But, I mean, that's for that group. They don't have evidence of teepees. But at
least if you're going to be dismissive, that's the polite, positive way of doing it.
Well, the thing is, he dismissed the teepee.
Yeah.
But he said, "Do you notice what's inside the teepee that's different? The plant vegetation that's in the general vicinity outside does not match what's inside. Something grabbed a bunch of grass, a bunch of plants from another area and brought it in and laid it in the teepee." He said, "The teepee itself, we don't have evidence of them making teepees. But what you have is a squatch nest." Because that's what they've been finding up in the Olympic Peninsula is random little squatch nests all over the place. They're able to go in every single year and track these giant nests. And it's just filled with, all kinds of plants.
Fauna, whatever they put in
it gets you up off the ground, which is a survival 101 basis.
Yeah.
You're stuck in the woods, put stuff underneath you, put ferns, put grasses, get up off the ground.
Right.
So, on that end, it was kind of nice that we were able to say, okay, we have something. We got something on thermal. You saw something dart across the clearing.
So that was the thing is that so we did a search of that area, of the surrounding area. Darren did some calls, and we did hear what sounded like knocking, which is they're their normal response. I do know that, like, when we were, as everyone was paying attention, listening for the knocks, I was looking up at the trees, and I could see that the trees were swaying, and they were knocking into each other.
Yeah.
So whether those were, I could hear the trees, kind of crashing into each other. I don't want to totally dismiss those, those knocks as being genuine, but I mean, the skeptic in me looked up, and I'm like, oh, that could have been that too. So, and that's the thing about forests, sound travels really strangely in forests. It's sound vibrates and echoes and bounces in between objects that are there. So you were convinced that it was a squatch knocking, and I looked up at the trees, and I'm like, well, I'm thinking it probably could have been the trees.
If it was a coincidence of knocking on the trees as I'm knocking on the trees, then we can chalk that up. What we can't chalk up to just being a coincidence is the thing darting across the clearing and staring at you. That we can't dismiss. That was something.
We stared down, and it was kind of like a little gully. And I spotted this. It kind of looked like it could have been like a den, like where a bear would, And I remember saying to Darren, "You think that's a bear den?" And he's like, "Oh, I suppose could be." I'm like, I never heard of bears being this close to a road. Most animals try to stay further away from beaten paths and the like, but I don't know. I just kept staring at it. I kept staring and staring and staring, and it was dark, and I could swear that I saw these two little beady yellow eyes just looking at me.
That's the thing. In one of the videos that I took, where I tried to zoom in on it, you can see eye shine. Yeah. Something is in there blinking at us.
So there was no. I mean, like, I know what I saw, right? And I'm not cooker for Cocoa Puff, so I distinctly saw something black. But then again, where we were looking into that den, it was all dark. So, but I distinctly saw two beady yellow eyes, and I think if I remember right, it. We got to talking, turned my attention away, looked back down there, they're gone. But I did see something out of the corner of my eye dart across my field of vision, and I'm kind of following it. And, think, if you will, like, imagine a baseball player who's sliding into second, right? He's trying to steal second base, and he's trying to avoid getting caught. And it almost seemed like as soon as I saw the movement going, I'm trying to track it, but this thing, whatever it was so fast. It shot across, from left to right, my field of view, and it's almost as if, soundlessly, mind you, because like if this thing slid, we probably could have heard some rustling in the vegetation there, but we didn't hear anything. But it almost kind of felt like it just slid into second, and it's hiding behind this little berm, and it's wondering if I spotted it. And then a few minutes later, we're kind of scanning the area. And I happen to look over there, and I see what kind of looked like, again, these two beady yellow eyes kind of poking its head up above this little, thing there, kind of looking to see if and I remember I looked right at it. I locked eyes onto it, and I kind of did the Marine hand knife motion, and I said to it, Mike, I see you, and I'm pointing at it. It's like, I got you, buddy. I see you. And again, it at some point it got up and took off again, but it went vertical and tried to stand behind a tree, and that's when we threw the thermal on it. And someone could say, well, your mind was playing tricks on you, but thermal doesn't lie.
Nope.
And there was something bipedal standing upright behind a tree, using the tree as cover, plain as day, shows up on thermal, and you know what? I can't explain that. I cannot explain that. I can't dismiss it,
Well,
but I can't explain it either. So there you go.
now see Bill here, he's moving to Kentucky. So I guess we're going to call you the Kentucky branch of D.B.K.
Okay.
I mean, we got a Scottish branch, we'll have a Kentucky branch. We're branching out. So, hopefully on this next roundabout, hopefully we can find a footprint and we can cast it.
That would be something. I mean, that's the thing is like, tangible evidence is tangible evidence. And foot castings are a great tool. Then the skeptic comes out at me and I'm like, how do you know someone just didn't make that and just, put that print there just to mess with you? So, I mean, there's always that too. So, I don't know. I guess for me, I try to I'm not so close-minded that I automatically dismiss everything. I mean, I do try to find a legitimate reason for why it's like. Remember how you when we were down at the coast? You saw what looked like squatch tracks, and I really didn't see it. I mean, I did see what looked like game tracks there, like a deer or elk or whatever. But I mean, it didn't really look like squatch to me. But that's just me.
Well, hopefully we'll find some tracks so we can cast them.
Yeah.
Because this time we're going loaded actually for Bigfoot and not ghosts.
Okay.
Because I think that was our problem is we did not have we were just going in for the ghosts, and we stumbled upon an entire whole new thing that we weren't ready for.
But see, that's usually how you find golden nuggets like that. It's when you're least expecting it.
Right.
And also, I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it was, I mean, what we found that day, I mean, that was, that was truly amazing. And it was like, I went home and I told my then girlfriend about it and her kids, and they were like, wow, that's kind of cool. And I'm like, well, oh, so are you a believer now? I'm like, I didn't say that. I think I'll always have a healthy skepticism. Well, just because I think every team needs a healthy skeptic. I mean, it keeps keeps everything grounded, and honest.
Well, like at the Ghost Conference when we were doing all of our public-led investigations, you'd have the people that are walking in the door, and even if you already know it's a quiet night, but then you got these people going, I sense the spirit of a small child. Okay, you just walked in the door. Can we do the investigation first and foremost?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, like that one time that we did, and that we had a very loud, boisterous lady, and she's just like, oh, something just touched my butt. Did you touch my butt? And her friend's like, no, I didn't touch your butt. Well, something just grabbed my ass. And it's like, and of course, Kayla's like, you realize that chick was drunk, right? And I'm like, I figured she was on something.
Yeah. Well, she gave me her business card. She was a psychic medium. She was heavily drunk, though.
So, I mean, like that kind of, right. You know how I feel about mediums, though. It's like, well, I don't put a whole lot of stock in them because and no offense to anyone out there, but the reality is, like, I mean, that's not anything that I can tangibly test. Yeah. You're basically taking someone at their word that they're not, feeding you a line of BS. I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
There's only a few psychic mediums I actually trust because they've said things that they shouldn't know.
Well, and that would be the test, really, is that you do the background investigation of the location, and you go in there and you let them take a read, and then if they come back and they give you something that is credible, that lines up with the background investigation of the
I'm talking about a psychic medium who was talking to me and saying things that I had not disclosed to anybody else.
Right. Oh, well, I mean, there's that too.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm saying like...
But, I trust the guy. I respect the guy.
Mm-hmm.
So if he wanted to come on a case, I know he's got his own paranormal group, but if he wanted to come on a case with us, I would put a little bit more stock in him because I have a little bit more trust in him.
That makes sense. Like I said, it's like whether whether they confide something in you that they shouldn't know because you withheld details from them. And that's kind of really what I'm getting at is like, every good investigation starts with you need to get a lay of the land and you need to get the full history of it. You need to understand, like, if you're going in and you're investigating a haunted house or a haunted restaurant or a bed and breakfast or whatever, you're going to want to have the history of that building. You want to have the history of the people that lived there. If there was any kind of traumatic event that happened there, you want to know that first and foremost, right? So, because let's be honest, if there's a haunting, there's usually because there's something traumatic that happened there. And so you need to, these are the little things that you use to kind of verify whether something is just wonky or something is legit. So you have that piece of crucial information, and you keep that close to your chest there. You don't reveal that to your psychics that you're bringing on board, and if they pick up on that and they start relaying information that rings true to that piece of history, then I would say that's very credible as to, they're probably the real deal.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, they did their own background investigation on the place and were already prepared for it. But, I mean, that's,
Now, with D.B.K. bringing on new members.
Yeah.
And we've got Byron, we got Michael, we got Misha.
Yeah.
We've got more people coming on that we can actually have a legitimate research agent. So it's not all me.
I thought, what was her name, Nicole? Wasn't she doing our kind of our research for us? Or no? Oh.
Other things came up in life.
No. Wish her well.
Yep.
See, I've been so out of the loop here. And I'm the B.
But, I mean, like, okay, this year's Ghost Conference was pretty good.
Yeah.
They
usually are. I'm sorry that I missed it this year.
You had to work.
Yeah.
But hey, they dropped all the COVID regulations anyway, so...
yeah, right in time for the... But I'm like, oh, man, well, now I'm stuck working. Sorry. No. Yeah, I would have loved to have come down there for that. But, when you got to pay bills, you got to pay bills. So
yeah. Well, and it was the same places as before. Bridge tender upstairs, downstairs.
Right.
Did
you do the Saltworks next door as well?
It's now a mini mart.
So that would have been a no-go.
Oh no, we were still there.
Oh, sweet.
It was just we corralled people mostly towards the demon bathroom and upstairs and kept them out.
And that's another favorite of mine. A couple of years ago, when we did that, we were doing that public tour there, and that was the strangest thing, seeing that image imprinted on that wall, and that was a bathroom, right?
Yeah, the bathroom.
I mean,
everybody got. Aaron got sick. I got sick.
Yeah, a few people got. I think Kayla got a little woozy too, and I felt something. I felt something was kind of really strange and off, and I went around there, and we did the thermal again, and we couldn't explain what it was that we were seeing on this thermal.
Yeah.
And man, it looked like a legitimate demon head, demon face. It was like, like
it was,
one of those.
Was a good find.
Yeah, it was like one of those like Halloween devil masks. That's kind of what it looked like, and we had no idea of where it came from or how it manifested there. The only thing we were ever really able to recreate is that I planted my palm right on the wall there, and we threw thermal on it. You could see the heat residual from my palm print and it's kind of fading away as it's, cooling off. But this thing was different. Nobody had touched the wall that we know of. Nobody, had, there wasn't any kind of like paint or anything like that was on the wall. It was a plain wall, and throwing thermal on that and plain as day, you're seeing this. I mean, and it looks like a face.
Yeah.
It had a full face. It kind of had a pointed chin. Just like the cartoony devils that you see, or the devil masks that you see, it had that pointy chin. It even had like elfish looking ears, and the horns. A devil or a dragon, I suppose. But it was clearly tangible, clearly there, and it was like that's the stuff I like, because those are the things that I can't dispute. I'm like, I don't know what that is. When we do spirit boxes, I'm always hit or miss on that, because it's like, well, it's sometimes random words come out and they're jarbled together and they make a sentence, or I kind of chalk it up as possible happenstance that, that one time at the city hall, at St. Helens City Hall, that I had the headphones on and I was audibly repeating what I was hearing on the, on the spirit box there. And I had no way of knowing that your brother had said something about me.
Yeah.
And I repeated what I heard on the spirit box saying yes, and everybody's cracking up, and I pulled the headphones off, and I'm like, what's so funny? And Ryan is like, the spirits here don't like you. I'm like, what? I guess he'd asked a pointed question like, hey, you guys don't like Bill?
Well, you remember the one night we were in the city council chambers. And
well, that's where I was, is when I had the headphones on. I was in the council chambers.
That was
at City Hall.
Yeah. But I'm talking about the other time when we were over in the. Aaron wasn't there that time.
Okay.
And the box told you and Ryan to go fuck yourselves.
Oh yeah, it was funny.
Do we know who you are? Who is this? You know who I am. Go fuck yourselves.
Yeah, that was.
That was one of those. Things.
And Ryan and I just kind of looked at each other. Our mouths just dropped. It's like, did that just really tell us what we really? Yeah,
it told you to go fuck yourselves.
Yeah, we did.
That's right, because we can cuss.
We did mark this as being explicit.
It's explicit because we are going to cuss, because why the hell not?
Well, he was quoting there, so I forgot about that until you mentioned it, where the spirit box flat out says, go fuck yourself, and I'm like, fuck you too, I'm like, okay, whatever.
Okay, then, literally, we should almost about just sit here and just do a podcast after podcast after podcast and just replay them down the road.
And then remember we were at the shoestrings there.
Yeah, the Masonic.
And then there was
the little girl Wendy who laughed because you told like a dad joke, and everybody in the group kind of ha 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 ha, and everyone's just kind of giggling and having a little fun. And then out of the back of the whole damn place, a little girl starts laughing.
Yeah,
and nobody could explain what was with the little girl.
But there was also a bully entity there. Mm-hmm. Remember? And I was challenging this bully, or this entity in this. And one of the people that were there, they asked me how I knew how to deal with it, and I'm like, well, I just don't like bullies. So if this was a legit thing, I'm challenging him to get a reaction out of it. So that was what I was attempting to do.
Yeah.
And then I kind of, I don't know, after that, I kind of felt like, well, I kind of came off as like an arrogant little asshole or something. But, it was like, I hate bullies. So it's like, and that was the information we got, that there was one of the entities was kind of a bullying type, and the other was a little girl, and that the little girl didn't like this guy because he always kind of bullied her a bit.
But then we also had the nice guy, Frank.
Yeah.
All right, now we got to talk about history and researching.
Yeah.
So I don't remember the date right at the moment, but there was a pleasure barge that was going from Portland to Astoria, and Astoria back to Portland. It was back in the 30s, I believe it was.
a pleasure barge. Is this what I think it is?
It was a dance hall.
Oh,
It's like the Portland Spirit,
okay.
but they would barge you up and down the river, drinks, dancing, the whole nine.
Gambling, probably.
I don't know.
Like a floating casino,
I don't know if it was a casino or not. It just sounds like it was
floating
just,
brothel.
I don't think it was that far. We're
Well,
not that,
you said
we hit it. We
you
hit
said
enough
pleasure, and I
brothels.
was like, oh, a floating
We hit
brothel,
enough
maybe?
brothels in our journeys.
Well, yeah. Well, and then the one time when we went down to Bridge Center and you gave me a sack of coins and you were trying to get me to like
And
entice the
says
madam
that-
to come at me. And
Madam says that's not enough.
yeah. I shook the bag and the spirit box says that's not enough, and I'm like, excuse me. So yeah. Sometimes we do get some pretty unique messages through that thing, and then you're just kind of sit there scratching your head. When we went to Stubbs Park, that's one that kind of, that's the one that still kind of like makes me go, we were just sitting there, and I'm still not thoroughly convinced, but the randomness of it was something that you can't really can't make heads or tails out of. And we were we were listening to the spirit box, and I'm just kind of like, I'm just like wandering off, looking off in the in the distance there, kind of minding my own business, and then all of a sudden the plain as day, I heard the spirit box say stinker. And I was like, what did you just say? And of course, you and Kayla are like, well, what'd you think it said? No, I want it to repeat itself. And so here's the thing is like, that's another thing about me is like, I don't ever want to put down what I think I hear, because we're also running video so that people could see, not only hear the audio, but see us, listening to the audio and reacting to the audio. So it's like, I don't want to taint the audience by conditioning or pre-programming. So I wouldn't repeat what I thought I heard it say. And so I said, say it again. And it says it a second time. It says stinker. And Kayla had said it said stinker. I'm like, okay, so you heard this, right? And they're like, well, what's so significant about stinker? And I said, stinker was the nickname my stepdad gave me. He gave all of us kids, his children as well as my brother and I. That was his little nickname for us kids. He always called us stinker. And so we have this conversation with whatever this thing is, or the spirit box, and I do have to say that it's without me saying I admit that this was a ghost or this was the ghost of my dad. I do have to say that it said stinker. It talked about law enforcement. He didn't say chief, but he said something else that was close to, like
close to a rank,
close to police leadership.
Yeah.
And it's like very few people know that I was a cop's son. Very few people know that my stepdad was a policeman, let alone that he was a chief of police in a small town. Well, okay, so that the police department was a department of one, so by proxy he was the chief. But that was something that was very tangible that I could not, I couldn't dispute, I couldn't explain. It was just one of those things where, and I don't know what was going on there. I don't think I was even thinking of my dad. I was just kind of enjoying the nature there, and all of a sudden it says stinker, and then we'd kind of go on this rabbit trail. So, speaking of rabbit trails, I rabbit trailed off of what we were originally talking about.
Well, that's okay, because
down at the bridge tender.
We're going to come back to the bridge tender,
Okay.
and we're going to come back to everything else.
Okay.
This was our live. We're going to record probably part 2, maybe even part 3, because we're on a roll.
Oh, yeah.
Because we only had 45 minutes at a go.
Are we coming up on that right now?
We are coming up. We got 3 minutes left.
Okay.
So, thanks for tuning in to us live. Thank you for tuning back in. We were going to come back, and you'll have to listen to part 2, maybe part 3, and hell, it is me and Bill. It might even be a part 4 in the next coming weeks.
I do ramble, don't I?
We just having a good old conversation.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank everyone, and we will talk to you guys.
Well, we're going to talk here in a couple minutes.
We're going to talk in a couple
you'll
minutes.
You'll listen to us whenever you listen to us.
You'll listen to us next week. So, for the doc.
And Wild Bill.
This is D.B.K. Casefiles Live.